Hello, my name is Kailee Bennett, and today I'm going to be presenting on the effect of climate change on canine heartworm in the Blue Ridge Mountains. So we're going to begin by talking about climate change. Climate change is a long-term shift in climate patterns. We see in this map that generally in the United States we see an overall increase in the temperature change since the 1900s. So in some areas it's more significant than others. We see especially in northern states, up in New England, and also across the West and Alaska, we see a higher rate of change than in the Southeast, where we see lower rates of change. We can also see in this box that the changes aren't always positive. They don't always get hotter in each decade. In the 1900s and the 1920s, we actually see that the temperature change was negative, that it was colder than they expected. However, since the 1980s, we've seen this increasing trend where it's getting hotter and hotter. It's getting further from the normal each year. We also see with this change in climate that there's an increasing prevalence of certain diseases. So one of these diseases is canine heartworm. And canine heartworm is a nematode parasite. So a nematode is a microscopic worm. We can see in this picture, this is a heartworm, and it's around red blood cells. That's those little red discs are red blood cells. So they're really small. The heartworms are transmitted by mosquitoes. So what happens is a infected mosquito will bite a dog, and the larvae, the heartworm larvae, will develop in the muscle tissue of the dog until it's ready to enter the circulatory system and go to the heart. So in the heart, it matures into an adult. And so this picture on the right of the heart, with all the worms in it, those are adult heartworms. And what the adult heartworms do is they fill up those chambers in the heart, and they make it really hard for the dog to pump its heart, and they can even go into the lungs. The adult heartworm release baby heartworms back into the circulatory system, so mosquitoes can go and pick up the larvae from an infected dog and transmit it to other dogs. So, like I said, heartworm is transmitted by mosquitoes, so heartworm needs mosquitoes to infect animals. So this means that heartworm distribution and mosquito distribution are directly related. So areas that can't have mosquitoes can't have heartworm. And mosquitoes are also influenced by climate change because mosquito larvae require certain temperature requirements to develop. And every species of mosquito's temperature requirement is a little bit different. So one type of mosquito might need hotter conditions. And so climate change is allowing these mosquitoes to spread to new locations because now one place is hotter than it used to be, and it can support these mosquitoes now. So climate change is influencing heartworm infection rates in a number of ways. For one, it's increasing their transmission period. Since areas are warmer and they're staying warmer longer, the heartworm have a longer period of time to spread. It's also increasing their transmission range. Since there are mosquitoes that are able to populate new places, the heartworms can also come to those places in the mosquitoes that can carry them. It's decreasing the time for heartworm development because warmer conditions allow heartworm to develop faster. So that means that the heartworm can develop to an infective stage even faster. It's also increasing mosquito diversity. And mosquito diversity, areas with higher mosquito diversity have higher rates of heartworm because it's more likely to have a species of mosquito that can carry heartworm. So here we see some maps showing heartworm infection rates from 2001 to 2016 and how they're changing. And we can see that the dark red or the darker colors show areas of high heartworm infection rates. And so we can see that it's spreading up where it was normally more typical in the south. It's spreading up into the northeast and even into the west. So specifically looking at western North Carolina, we wanted to see if heartworm rates are what we would expect them to be based on national heartworm infection rates. So we obtained data on heartworm cases in Western North Carolina from the Companion Animal Parasite Council website, which shows a map that indicated how many dogs were tested for heartworm and also how many dogs tested positive for heartworm. And then we also obtained data from the Madison County Animal Clinic. We use the national average to calculate the expected values each year by taking the national average or the national transmission rate and multiplying it by the number of dogs tested to see what we would expect the number of infected dogs to be. And then we plotted the expected and actual cases. We looked at 4 counties. We looked at Yancey County, Madison, Buncombe, and Haywood. So we're going to start with Buncombe County. Buncombe County had significantly lower heartworm rates than expected. So we can see that the triangles represent the expected dogs that we would assume would be heartworm positive based on the national incidence for each year. And we can see that in 2012 it was really close, but each year it diverged further and further away from what we would expect, and it diverged so that it was lower. The same thing occurred in Haywood County. It stayed closer together for a little bit longer from 2012 to 2014, and in 2016 it came back together. But we see this really significant increase in the amount of difference between the expected and actual value in 2018, which implies that there is something in Buncombe and Haywood County that's making it making such a significant difference so that it's lower than what we would expect. In Yancey County, there was no significant difference between the expected and actual values, and a big reason for this is that the number of dogs that were tested and also the number of dogs that tested positive was really low. There was just not a lot of data, so it's really hard to make conclusions when you have such little data. We see in 2012, 2018, and 2019 that there were no dogs that tested heartworm positive. And in every year, the expected number of dogs that would test heartworm positive is less than 2. We get the same kind of thing in Madison County, also because there was such low data points, and every year except 2017, there were no dogs that tested heartworm positive. And every year, the expected number that would test positive is less than 1. So it's just hard to make conclusions when there's such little data. So from this data, we can conclude that climate might not be driving heartworm prevalence in Western North Carolina. There might be something else that's contributing to it. Heartworm prevalence is generally lower than what we would expect in Western North Carolina in all 4 of these counties. And the dogs in this region are less likely to become infected than other dogs in the country. So what we're planning on doing this summer is I'm hopefully going to go out and see if I can find out what is going on here by trapping mosquitoes. And we're going to see if there is any correlation between the number of species of mosquitoes present and heartworm prevalence, rather than climate being a driving factor. Or we're also going to look into how climate could be affecting the mosquito species that are present. So I would like to thank Dr. Zinna for his guidance and advice in preparing this presentation. And that is it. Thank you.